Srimati Radharani ki. Dear devotees, tomorrow is the auspicious appearance day of Srimati Radhika. The internal potency of the Lord. And so, Srila Prabhupada mentions in the chapters where the gopis are searching for Krishna, we'll try to do some Leela Smaranam today. Prabhupada said the perfection of life is always to remember Krishna. And Krishna, he was engaged in rasa dancing with the gopis for one night of Lord Brahma. And all the demigods were there observing this trance-like dancing of the Lord. But Radharani was feeling that she wanted more attention from Krishna, so she abandoned the arena of the rasa dance and went into the forest. And Krishna is so conquered by Radharani. One of her 25 qualities is she is in full control of Krishna. So Krishna left all the gopis in the rasa dance and he went looking for Radharani. The gopis also decided to go and look for Krishna in the forest of Vrindavan. And they were asking the creepers, have you seen the son of Maharaj Nanda go this way? And of course they weren't answering, so they thought, oh, the creepers they're also female, so we must pose some competition to them. And they would ask the deer, and the deer, of course, wouldn't answer. And they thought, oh, these deer, they're all in complete trance due to the darshan of Lord Krishna. So the gopis went deeper and deeper into the forest, and remembering Krishna's pastimes, one gopi would climb on the shoulder of another gopi and enact the lifting of Govardhan Hill, or enact the killing of the Trinavarta demon. And this way the gopis were constantly in memory, in trance on Lord Krishna's eternal pastimes. So one of the qualities of Radharani is that she's a sweet young girl. That's her first quality described. And her eyes are always very restless. There's some darkish ointment around Radharani's eyes, like kajal. And this darkness is signifying her always searching after the monsoon cloud, Shyamasundar Krishna. Her smile is very bright, and her words are very pleasing. She has very auspicious lines on her body, and her body aroma attracts the mind of Krishna. She's known as Karunya, very compassionate. She's also very patient, and she's very kind to both her superiors and inferiors. She's conquered by the love of her Shakis. Radharani is actually a left-wing gopi. What is a left-wing gopi? She becomes angry at Krishna sometimes, and she derives pleasure from picking fights with Krishna. So the knot in her hair represents, and this is a discussion where Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu meets Ramananda Roy as he's walking through South India, and he's traveling through the holy places through South India, and he sees Ramananda Roy. Ramananda Roy is the governor of Madras at the time, and he's a great devotee of the Lord. He's a servant of Maharaj Prataparudra, and he's accompanied by, the caste Brahmins and the entourage of ministers. And when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sees him, he can almost not control himself. He wants to run towards Ramananda Roy. It's stated in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that Ramananda Roy seems to be embodied by two souls, Radharani Vishaka and Arjun. So, a very, very intimate associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu starts asking him questions about the path, the goal of human life, the path of devotional service. And Ramananda Roy recites so many verses and explains, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu brings him to the highest level of love of God, which is love of Krishna in the mood of Madhurya Leela. But higher than that is a feeling of separation from Krishna. And Radharani, the knot in her hair, Ramananda Roy says, represents her agonizing desire to meet Krishna. And we know that Rupa Goswami has written 2 plays, the Vidagdha Madhav and the Lalita Madhav. Actually, Rupa Goswami was traveling from Bengal through Odisha towards Jagannath Puri to meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he stopped overnight at a town called Satyabhama Puri. So as he was sleeping that night, Goddess of Fortune came into his dream and she said, I want you to write 2 plays. Don't ever take Krishna out of Vrindavan. Vrindavana Parichaja Padamikam Nadigachati. Actually, Krishna doesn't take 1 step out of Vrindavan. The Krishna that goes to Mathura and Dwarka, that is Vasudeva Krishna. And in that Leela, Krishna is understood to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. And we know that when Akrura was taking Krishna away from the inhabitants of Vrindavan, he stopped to take bath in the Yamuna, and Akrura got the vision of Krishna and Balaram. Balaram expanded as Ananta Shesh, and Krishna was lying on the bed of Ananta in the form of Vishnu. And then Akrura looked over the chart and he saw Krishna and Balaram. He's going back and forth. So this is a signal that Krishna had transformed into Vasudeva Krishna. So Krishna is either a prakash or aprakash form in Vrindavan, either unmanifest or manifest. Krishna has 4 qualities that even Lord Vishnu doesn't exhibit. He's always accompanied by his wonderful flute. It's described by Rupa Goswami that the flute playing of Krishna strikes the Gandharvas. They're the great musicians in the heavenly planets. He strikes the Gandharvas with wonder. And he causes Lord Shesh, who is holding up the universes on his heads, to become dizzy and move hither and thither. His flute playing pierces the covering of the universes, the 10 layers covering the universe. And his flute playing also causes the goddesses, the demigods' wives, their hair to loosen and their belts on their dresses to loosen. In this way, the transcendental flute of Krishna is very magical, very mystical. And we know that Krishna, it's described by Rupa Goswami, has 3 types of flutes: the Vamsi, the Murali, and the Venu. The Murali flute is especially meant for the gopis. This flute has a very magical sound. And when it enters into the ears of the gopis, it acts like a cuckoo, which takes nest there. And the gopis are not able to hear the calling of their husbands and relatives to come home. So Radharani, in the Vidagdha Madhava, which is the pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan, and all the devotees in Vrindavan are covered by Yogamaya in the form of Purnamasi. And she makes all types of arrangements for Krishna and the gopis to have pastimes in the bowers and forests of Vrindavan. So Radharani addresses the flute. She says, you seem to be having a pious family. The trees and the rivers are very pious. And the trees growing on the banks of the rivers, you're like your fathers. The rivers are like your mothers. Why have you taken initiation into this dangerous mantra which disturbs the hearts and minds of the gopis? This way Radharani was chastising the flute. The flute happens to be the property of the gopis, owned by the gopis. The lips of Krishna happen to be the property of the gopis. And although it's male, it's hard, it's lifeless, and full of holes, it's always residing in the hands of Krishna and drinking the nectar coming from the lotus lips of Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the flute is always challenging the gopis. Why don't you come, leave your homes and come, challenging them to give up fair and religious principles and the codes of conduct of married women and come and dance with Krishna in the forests of Vrindavan. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's described that Krishna's voice is just like the thunderclap of the monsoon cloud, and that his flute playing is also very enchanting. The sounds of the ornaments on his body, his bangles, his ankle bells, his shark-shaped earrings, all these sounds, these tinkling sounds also enter into the ears of the gopis, accompanied by the flute playing of Krishna, accompanied by his joking and teasing words, and by his thunderous voice. These four types of sounds overwhelm the hearts of the gopis. They enter into their ears, and they cannot hear the good reasoning of their relatives to stay at home. And they run off to the forest in the dead of night, only to meet with discouraging words by Krishna, telling them, "You're married women, why aren't you coming in the dead of night into the forest?" You know, and he's giving them words of morality and ethics. In this way, the gopis become very angry and say, "Krishna, you're just a cheater. Why are you taunting us like this? You have conquered us by your flute playing and your wonderful sounds, your voice, your joking words, and now you're discouraging us." Like this, Krishna was always taunting and teasing the gopis of Vrindavan. When Krishna and the Yadavas went to Kuruksetra, they went there and they met the inhabitants of Vrindavan on a pilgrimage at Kuruksetra. And Krishna meets Radharani and the inhabitants of Vrindavan. And Radharani she says that it's the same person, Krishna, my friend Krishna, he's here. But he's here with chariots and noisy soldiers and army. I simply long to be back in Vrindavan, hearing Krishna play on the fifth note, and standing by in Vamsivata, being with Krishna. So this is the mood of Radharani. Even in separation, this taste of separation is the highest emotion in love of God. And Rupa Goswami is writing so many beautiful verses, empowered by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nana Shastra Vichara Naika Nipano Sadharma Samstapano, that the 6 Goswamis, they were empowered by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to write wonderful literatures. Raghunath Das Goswami wrote so many beautiful literatures describing the ultimate goal of life, Prema Pumartha Mahan, how to love God. God is a wonderful person with beautiful hands. It's described that Krishna resembles a lotus flower in 8 places. His 2 lotus hands, his 2 lotus feet, his lotus lips, his lotus eyes, and his lotus face, and his lotus navel. And from these lotus flower parts of his body emanate a beautiful smell, which smells like aguru, musk, and camphor mixed. And when this scent enters the nostrils of the gopis, they become blinded, it's described. This is all poetic renditions by Rupa Goswami. The gopis become blinded and they're not able to find their way back to their homes. Like this, these beautiful poems are written by Rupa Goswami and the other Goswamis of Vrindavan. We know that they're actually Manjaris who have come to participate in the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Krishna himself, although he's Madan Mohan, the attractor of Cupid, he can't even fathom the love that Radha has for him. And so he appears in this age of Kali to taste that depth of love, or at least attempt to try and taste the emotional ecstasy that Radharani has for him. Therefore, she is known as Madan Mohan Mohini. Her love is pure and unconditional and is untarnished by any selfish motive. Although it's a type of lust, this lust is simply how to please Lord Krishna's senses, how to serve Krishna. In fact, in the Shishashtakam, in the final chapter of Antya-lila, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Radharani is saying that I know no one else except Krishna is my Lord, and he always remains so, even if he leaves me brokenhearted by not being here in front of me. Yukayitam nameshana chakshusha prabhichayitam. These verses are there. Ashla shiva padaratam panashtumam adarshanam marmatam karutiva. And Radharani says that sometimes Krishna abandons me. Just like one time Radharani was glorifying Krishna and she fell into trance, in ecstasy. And so Krishna, seeing that she was in a trance, he abandoned her and he went looking for the gopi Viraja. Viraja is a youthful gopi around 15 years old. And he went to the place of Viraja and he was associating with Viraja, having some leelas with her at her place. And Radharani, she got up and she said, "Where is my Krishna? Where is Nanda Nandana?" And the gopi said, "Oh, he's abandoned you." And so Radharani became very angry and she got in her chariot. Radharani's chariot is not an ordinary chariot. It's 100 yojanas high and it's 10 yojanas wide. How much is a yojana? 8 miles. This chariot has hundreds and thousands of wheels and it's decorated with hundreds and thousands of kahanas. It's made of rubies, diamonds, emeralds, pearls, all exotic jewelry. And it has 100,000 rooms. All the rooms are decorated very exotically. And there's also parks in her chariot. Different parks with ponds and waterfowl and beautiful trees like Malika tree. And this chariot, how fast does it go? It travels at the speed of the mind. So Radharani and 600 million of her Sakis get in the chariot and they immediately go to the place of Viraj. At the gate of Viraj is a beautiful cowherd boy. His name is Sridham. And he has a stick and he tries to stop the gopis from entering into the abode of Viraj. And he's trying to stop them, but the gopis overwhelm him. And as Krishna hears all the ruckus outside, he suddenly runs into the forest and disappears. And Viraj becomes so panic-stricken that she commits suicide, gives up her body. And she becomes the Viraja river, which surrounds the Vaikuntha planets. So she's given her body up. She's become a Nali, the river Viraj. And so Krishna disappears and Radharani is angry. She's upset. This Krishna has left me. And she goes back to her place of residence. And she's there with the gopis and she's lamenting. And Krishna comes back and he's looking for Radha and he tries to, in a very remorseful way, "Can I please see Radharani?" And the gopis are saying, "No, this is not a good time to see Radharani. She's very upset with you." So Krishna says, "Okay." And he goes back to Viraj's place and he approaches Viraj, who's in the form of a river, a Nali. And he says, "I'll make you as beautiful as Radharani." And he manifests again, by his mystic power, creates beautiful Viraj back as a gopi. And as they're associating together, Viraj conceives 7 sons, 7 boys. And they're all playing, and Krishna is associating with Viraj, and she's attending to Lord Krishna, attending to him, giving a nice massage, bringing prasad, and so on. And the elder brother starts teasing the younger brother. So the younger brother runs to his mother and is crying, and Viraj becomes distracted, and she goes to attend to the boys, naughty boys. And Krishna takes the opportunity to disappear again and run off to Radharani. So when this happens, Viraj becomes very angry. She says, "You boys, you've made me miss Krishna." And she curses them to become the 7 rivers that surround the various islands in the Bhumandala area. Salt water, ocean of salt water, ocean of ghee, ocean of milk, ocean of dahi, ocean of liquor, ocean of sweet water. These various oceans are there in the Bhumandala where the sun's rays extend. So Krishna goes back and he's looking for Radharani. And Radharani says, "Get lost, you're such a debauchee, such a rascal, get lost. I don't want to have anything to do with you. You create so much trouble for me." And she said, "Why don't you just go back to your Nali, Viraj, your little Nali, your little river. You can take the form of Nala, and you can have pastimes with your Nali. And all the great sages and devas, they'll all laugh at you. Hey, look at this Krishna, he's just a little Nala, just a little river." And this way she was mocking him. So that is one pastime. But Radharani says in the Shishashtakam that even though Krishna behaves in this way, unfaithful to me, she says, if he chooses to associate with another gopi, I become the maidservant of that gopi, and I take her by the hand, and I bring her to Krishna. And although it may give me great pain, that pain is the best of my happiness, because it pleases Krishna. So this is the mood of the Vaishnavas. The devotees, they're always assisting other devotees to make spiritual advancement towards Krishna. Devotee is always para sukha sukhi. And the demoniac persons, they're always para dukkha sukhi or para sukha dukhi. When a demoniac person, materialistic person sees someone succeeding, they become very unhappy. They become envious. Kam, krodh, lobh, moha, mada, matsarya. Matsarya, they become very envious of others. This is a material world, it's full of envy. Icha dvesha samutena dvandva mohina bharata. Dualities of desire and hate. But Radharani says, I become the maidservant of the gopi that Krishna favors. And I take her by the hand and bring her to Krishna to associate with her. Krishna is very pleased when we develop this psychology and mentality of always pushing up other devotees towards Krishna and towards pleasing the spiritual master, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead's servitorship. He's the representative of Krishna. Shakshadari Trenastamasta Shastrir Yuktashtata Bhavi Eva Shadbi. Kintu Pravoya Priya Eva Sadvat Bande Garoshi Charanara Vindam. The spiritual master is a representative of the Lord, so we try to please him, and we try to help other devotees to please the spiritual master and to please Lord Krishna as well. So this is the mood of Vaishnava. He avoids kuti nati, fault finding, jiva hinsa, causing anxiety to other devotees or others, jiva hinsa, envy of others. Jiva hinsa is actually a kind of violence to commit offenses. And the first offense, of course, we know is to blaspheme, either mentally or verbally. This is the great danger in spiritual life while chanting, to commit this great offense, Vaishnava aparad, sadhu nindana, commit offenses to our fellow devotees. So the mood of Radharani and the gopis is described by Rupa Goswami. The Radharani is like a creeper which embraces the tamal tree of Krishna. And that the gopis are like the leaves and the branches on the creeper of Radharani. And by indirectly serving the creeper of Radharani to embrace Krishna and associate directly with Krishna, they derive more pleasure from assisting Radharani than by direct association with Krishna. So this is our mentality. One time, Tripurari asked Prabhupada is going out to the fallen souls and distributing books, your books. Is this in the mood of the gopis, trying to bring them to Krishna? Prabhupada said, yes, this is the right mentality, is that we're trying to bring all Krishna's tiny jivas back to his lotus feet. Because Krishna is pining away for the fallen conditioned souls. He's very compassionate, and he's seeing the suffering, patita pavana, tava hetu, tava avatar, mosamo patita pava, napoi bear. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in the mood of Radharani, Krishna is in the mood of Radharani, and he's actually in great pain. He speaks to Haridas Thakur, and how can we deliver these souls in Kali Yuga? How can we help them? They're so, Kali Doshani Deiraj. It's such an ocean of miseries. Everyone is committing so many sinful activities. Millions of them are simply gliding down to the lower planets and the hellish species of life, as Krishna says. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in great anxiety, but Haridas Thakur tries to relieve him of his anxiety and says the holy name is so powerful that even if you say it in jest or in joking way, or if you say it in a swearing way, like the Muslims go, harama, harama, when they're being gored by a pig while answering the call of nature. And even they say haram in such a way, they become liberated at that moment. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that the once uttering of the two syllables, Krishna, will destroy more sinful activities than one could ever commit in millions and millions of lifetimes. And in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna Kaviraj Goswami quotes, the one who thinks that one utterance of the name Krishna is equal to 100,000 Ashwamedha yagyas in Dwapara Yuga is certainly a candidate for the hellish planets. This is a quote from the Vedas given by, in the pastimes of Haridas Thakur meeting Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this holy name is far more potent and powerful and profound than we know. Nama Chintamani Krishna Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Puno Shuddho Nitya Mukta Vinadvam Nama Namine. So the name of Krishna is full of power and potency and is non-different from Krishna himself. So when Radharani is in the forest with Vishaka and Lalita, and they're looking for the son of Maharaj Nanda, Rupa Goswami is writing, and Purnamasi, she meets them in the forest, Yoga Maya, and she says, where is that blue boy Krishna? And when Radharani hears these two syllables, Krishna, her hair stands on end, and the skin in her body erupts. And she tells Vishaka, oh, Vishaka, I'm a condemned woman, for I'm simultaneously attracted to 3 different males. She says the first male is the one who's always playing the flute. And when this flute enters my ears, my body starts trembling uncontrollable. My body is shivering. Although there's no cold wind blowing and there's no snowfall, why is my body trembling like this? And then she says there's another male, his name is Krishna. And when this sound, these 2 syllables enter into my ears, all the hairs on my body stand on end. These are all symptoms of ecstatic love for Krishna described in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Rupa Goswami. And then she says Vishaka's drawn a picture of the little blue cowherd boy, the prince of Vrindavan. And Radharani says, when I see that picture, it jumps into my heart, and my whole body becomes petrified. It becomes inert. It can't move. I become stunned, and my voice chokes up. In this way, I'm condemned to be attracted to 3 males simultaneously. I'm such a condemned woman. And Vishaka says, Radharani, Why are you acting like a mad woman? It's the same person, Krishna, the son of Maharaj Rupa Goswami describes that one gopi tells Radharani, Radharani, don't be so overconfident. He says, I notice that Krishna has painted the tilak on your forehead, and there's no signs that his hand was shaking. The tilak is perfectly drawn on your forehead. So don't be too overconfident. Krishna doesn't seem too nervous when he's putting tilak on your forehead. In fact, when Krishna was lifting Govardhan Hill, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describes that Radharani enters. She hears it from Varshana that Krishna is lifting Govardhan Hill, and the Samvartaka clouds are pouring pillars of rain. These clouds are used at the time of devastation. And the entire tract of Vrindavan is being flooded. And Sir Radha and Vishabhanu, they go to help. They hear that Krishna is lifting Govardhan Hill on his little finger. When Krishna sees Radharani come under the hill, her beauty is so devastating his hand starts to shake. Actually, Vishwanath Chakravarti says that this hand shaking is Krishna so overwhelmed by the devotion of his devotees that his hand starts shaking. But he observes that Radharani is so beautiful, and he's observing her beauty. And Lord Balaram sees the whole hill shaking, and the inhabitants of Vrindavan, they become very, very, tormented. They think he's going to drop this mountain. But Balaram starts smirking and laughing. Oh, he can't. In the form of Ananta Shesh holding up the entire universe. He's not drop a little hill. Giri Govardhan. So he's smiling, but Krishna thinks got caught looking at Radharani's beauty, and he feels very shy. This is shyness and ecstatic love. So not only do devotees experience love for Krishna in Vrindavan, Krishna is also experiencing unlimited love for his devotees. And the entire atmosphere is imbued with pure love of God. There's not a single drop of anything material in the atmosphere of Vrindavan, Goloka Vrindavan. So in this way, Radharani is described, speaking of tilak, Ramananda Roy describes that Radharani's forehead, on her forehead, is the tilak of good fortune. The Radharani is lying on the bed of separation in the room of bodily aroma. These are all metaphoric, poetic descriptions given by Suradas in Krishna Karnamrita. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of course, in his final 8 years, he's experiencing so much separation from Krishna. During the day, he would go about his normal duties in Jagannath Puri, but at night, he'd be overwhelmed by ecstatic feelings of separation from Krishna in the mood of Radharani. And Ramananda Roy and Swarab Damodar would have to recite poetry from Vidyapati, from the Krishna Karnamrita, from Jayadev Goswami, and to satisfy and pacify Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mind, which was almost being destroyed, he said, by these symptoms of love of God, these emotions. So Krishnadas Kaviraj says that I'm writing these intimate pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is experiencing this ecstatic love that Radha has for Krishna, and describing very intimate aspects of love of God. But the camel-like non-devotees, they're simply busy chewing the thorns of impersonal philosophies and atheism. Even though the Chaitanya Charitamrita is available to the public, they'll never understand it. They're too busy chewing the thorns of materialistic philosophies. So many philosophies have been given: Buddhism, Kanada, Kapila the atheist, 7 types of philosophies in India that are atheistic. So Krishnadas Kaviraj describes these wonderful experiences Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has in Vrindavan. He goes into trance in the Gambhira room where he's staying. Somehow or other, although the doors are locked, he escapes out of the Gambhira room. and he's found near the Garuda Stamba at Puri, and he's lying down near the cows of Tailinga, and they're licking his body, and he's feeling such separation from Krishna that all his limbs go inside of his body, and he takes the form of a tortoise. And then Swarup Damodar and the devotees are looking for him and find him in this deformed state, in complete internal consciousness. And they start chanting Hare Krishna in his ear, and he comes to half external consciousness. And then he's saying, "Where is Krishna? Where is he gone? Where is the flute player of Vrindavan? You see, where's the son of Maharajnanda?" Like that. And they're Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is describing that I was there in the forest of Vrindavan, and I saw Krishna and the gopis, and the gopis were picking flowers for Krishna, and so many things were going on. Radharani, she's very sometimes she's very proud, and she's thinking, the cowherd boys, they make a flower garland for Krishna. When I make a garland for Krishna, he wears it on his heart. This is the example of pride and ecstatic love for Krishna. Radharani also sometimes becomes very embarrassed. One time she was just waking up and she was speaking in her sleep, and she's telling Krishna, "Krishna, how dare you touch my garments, and stop making jokes, or I'll tell your elders, I'll tell your father." And she was chastising him in her dreams. "Don't you dare touch my garments." And when she opened her eyes, all of her elders and relatives were standing around her bed, frowning with great disapproval. So in this way, Radharani felt very embarrassed. In this way, these pastimes are described by Rupa Goswami, or Sanatan Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami. They're all describing these wonderful activities which is being given to devotees to gradually develop their attachment to Lord Krishna. To meditate on these pastimes of Krishna is very, very purifying. And Radharani, she's very merciful, very compassionate. Like I said, she's fully in control of Lord Krishna. What color are the eyes of Radharani? Does anyone know? They're blue. It's described in one place that Radharani's eyes are blue, and that the braid in her hair resembles a cobra going down her back. Her hair, it comes like this, and then it's braided. It looks like a black cobra on her. In this way, these various descriptions are opportunities for us to meditate on the Ladini Shakti potency of Lord Krishna, Srimati Radharani, to meditate on her mood and her love for Krishna and the inhabitants of Vrindavan, their love for Krishna in the spiritual world. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he traveled through Jharkhand forest, we know that he made the tigers chant Hare Krishna, and the deer were chanting and dancing with the tigers, although they're natural enemies. And the elephants were chanting Hare Krishna. So Prabhupada said, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is God. He can make even the animals chant Hare Krishna. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to Kashi and Varanasi, this is the stronghold of the impersonalists, the Mayavadis, and there were thousands of impersonalists who were led by Prakashananda Saraswati. And this impersonal philosophy is condemned by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They say Krishna has no eyes, God has no hands, no legs. They've ripped up everything taken off of God. In the purports there, Prabhupada described that this impersonalism is simply a different type of atheism, a different type of Buddhism, where God is reduced to almost zero, just no personal features. Ine Ravindakshami Muktimani Nas. So these impersonalists, Prakashananda Saraswati was criticizing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for being very sentimental and so on. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was staying at the house of Chandrasekhar. He, although was considered Sudra, was a very great devotee of the Lord. Aho bato swapacho tagariyan yajjivage vartate namatubhyam. Tipus tipus te jufur shashnuraryak brahmonachur nama grinanti yete. It's stated in the Bhagavatam, oh, how wonderful it is that even a person born in the family of dog eaters, swapacho tagariyan, if he has the holy name of Krishna dancing on his tongue, he's performed all the great austerities of all the tapasvis. He's performed all the great rituals and sacrifices of the Brahmins. And he's taken bath in all the holy rivers all throughout Bharatvarsh. And he is a pure devotee of the Lord. And even one is like a Brahmin, just like Prakashananda Saraswati. They're born in Brahmin families, they're big sannyasis and so on. But they have not a drop of devotion for Krishna. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was not inclined to meet them. He always avoided the impersonalists. But Chandrasekhar invited all these sannyasis to his house, all these Mayavadi sannyasis to his house. So Chandrasekhar begged Lord Chaitanya to go and give his association to these impersonalists. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went there, and although he's a Supreme Personality of Godhead, he sat right where they all wash their feet. He sat where the foot wash place was. And he was glowing, just like the Supreme Personality of Godhead, just glowing. And so they're very attracted to him. And they came, and Prakashananda Saraswati offered his respects and begged him to come. And in this way, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained to him the ultimate goal of human life, the Vaishnava Siddhanta, Brahmeti Paramatmati Bhagavaniti Shabdyate, that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the supreme absolute truth and summum bonum of everything. And converted all 60,000 sannyasis to pure devotion, to devotional service, pure devotional service. So this is the mercy of the Lord in Kali Yuga, that he gives out this prema, this Radha Prem, this compassion of Radharani to all the jivas, all the fallen souls. And that is the business of the devotees in the line of Rupa Goswami, Rupanugas, Tapta Kanchana Gauringa Radhe Vrindavaneshwari, that we want to be in the mood of Radharani and deliver all the fallen souls from this dense, dark place of Kali Yuga. So these are some of the activities and the manifestations. Radharani's ecstatic love of God is explained by Krishnadas Kaviraj. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is relishing these various emotions that Radharani has for Krishna. And he's accompanied by his very intimate disciples, his devotees, Ramananda Roy, Swarup Damodar. Not everyone would he share these intimate pastimes and so on. We know that Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Lord Chaitanya revealed his Sadbhuj form. But for Ramananda Roy, he revealed Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna, Nahayanya. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed the form of Radha and Krishna as he was speaking to Ramananda Roy. Ramananda Roy fell back in ecstasy. Although he's considered from the Kayasta caste, Ramananda Roy is considered Sudra caste. He's the greatest devotee of the Lord, as stated in that verse I quoted. So they've come to distribute this pure love of God. They danced and chant throughout Bengal. Sri Panchatattva danced and chant and opened up the storehouse of love of Godhead and distributed to anyone and everyone. It said that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Roy, they were like miners, and they were mining this mountain of love of God, the treasure house of love of God. They opened up the treasure house, and they were mining different jewels, different emotions in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. the ocean of devotion, of love of God, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So they were mining out these various precious gems and jewels that devotees can experience in higher levels of devotional service, which is available to all those devotees, all the Vaishnavas. Krishna wants to give it to us, this pure devotional service. But we're all struggling. We're all being sidelined by the power of Maya. So Prabhupada would always pray every day, please save me from Maya. And Prabhupada said, we should all pray, please protect us from the illusory energy of the Lord. So these are some of the activities that Srimati Radharani had. She exemplifies, as Krishna says to her, to the Ahamas Vrindavan, when he met them in Kurukshetra, my dear devotees of Vrindavan, you're my very life. And the gopis, you're especially my life. But Radharani, you're the very life of my life. You're the love of my life. In this way, Radharani is, one of her qualities is that she is the supermost gopi of all the gopis. She's the supermost superlative devotee of Krishna. She's always pleasing to the Lord and pleasing to everyone. So we'll stop here. And if someone has a question. Yes, Mataji?
Thank you, Prabhu, for the class and taking us into the mood of Radhastami. Very much appreciated. I have a question about Radharani and Krishna and Abhimanyu. She's married to Abhimanyu and
Yes.
she secretly goes to meet Krishna. So in the material world, this is highly immoral. So how do we understand it in the spiritual world?
Well, the material world is a perverted reflection, as described in the Bhagavad Gita. It's a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. So the highest platform of love in the spiritual world, Parakiya Ras, lawless love, Krishna and the gopis, is the most binding and most abominable Rajavijra, how's that go? Kama Esha Kruda Esha Rajaguna Samudbhava. Mahapapma is the great enemy of the world, the great sin of the world. Mahashano Mahapapno Vidyanami Avarinam. That the lust in the material world is so powerful is the most degrading to the soul. And it's the binding, Maitunya Agara, described by Prabhupada in the purport in the 2nd chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Maitunya, the shackles of sex desire. The soul is shackled down to this desire. So in the material world, it's most abominable and most binding. And it manifests in many ways, in subtle and gross. People are attached to their family, to their society, to their loved ones, to their friends, all this. It's all subtle manifestations of this sex desire. In the spiritual world, it's the most liberating and purifying. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, although he was hearing about these wonderful pastimes in the spiritual world, that kind of spiritual lust is totally untouched by the modes of material nature. And there's no selfish motive there at all. It's pure love of Krishna, trying to please Krishna's senses. Whereas here, it's trying to please our senses. And the entire Bhagavad Gita was spoken to Arjuna because he's trying to please his senses. Oh, I don't want to kill my relatives and so on. His attachment is subtle forms of sex desire. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very, very strict. And he kept his distance from women. One time he heard the Jayadev Goswami, a woman was singing the Gita Govinda by Jayadev Goswami, and he was running towards the singer. And then Govinda grabbed him and said, it's a woman singing. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, you've saved my life. So especially Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very strict. In the case of Chota Haridas, he excommunicated him from his association for innocently going to beg some rice from Madhavi Devi, who was the sister of Sikhi Mahiti, and she was considered one of the 3.5 devotees that understood the depths and the confidential love that Lord Chaitanya was experiencing, Mahabhav. She was one of the 3.5 devotees. She was the half devotee. Sikhi Mahiti, Ramananda Roy, Swarup Damodar, and Madhavi could understand and tap into the most deepest, profoundest experiences that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was tasting in Mahabhav. And yet, when Chota Haridas went to beg some rice innocently, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, no. Now he's, excommunicated from my association. Tell him he cannot come in my association. And Chota Haridas committed suicide and came to Lord Chaitanya in the form of Gandharva. So this was used to set the example that those who are practicing brahmacharya, even those who are grihastas, those who are devotees trying to get out of this material world, this ocean of birth and death, must be very careful. Matra swacha duhitrava navaviktasano bhavet. One should not associate alone, even with one's mother, or one's own sister, or one's own daughter. That verse is there. Matra swacha duhitrava navaviktasano bhavet. Balavo indriyo gramo. The senses are so strong. So that was Lord Chaitanya's example and teaching and directive to us devotees to be very, very careful in practicing devotional service. It's very, very difficult, and we're in the abode, the forest of material enjoyment. We're in the prison house of Maya. We're prisoners trying to get out like that. So although these descriptions are there in Prabhupada's, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita and so on, Srimad Bhagavatam also, and the great acharyas have given so many descriptions, we have to be careful even when reading these pastimes of the Lord and the gopis. We have to understand, first of all, that we're a spirit soul. We're not the bodies. We're eternal servants of Krishna. And gradually, as we make advancement, we can understand these things.
Thank you very much.
One quick one, and then we have to share.